Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next in this story. My mom chuckled across the Thanksgiving table, her eyes glinting as she said, "You'll never own a home like your sister." Victoria leaned back, smirking, twisting the knife. "She'll be broke forever." The mashed potatoes on my plate suddenly tasted like dust. I wanted to shout, to defend myself, to remind them of everything I'd already accomplished. But I didn't. I smiled instead, because deep down I knew something they didn't. That night marked the end of me being the child who craved their approval. It was the night I began transforming into the woman who would change everything. My name is Henriette. I'm 26 years old, and this is the story of how I went from being the family's disappointment to standing proudly in the driveway of my own home, a house more beautiful than anything they could imagine. If you've ever been compared, dismissed, or underestimated, you're not alone. Drop a comment if this story feels familiar, and remember to subscribe, because what happens next will shock you. Part 2, Growing Up in Her Shadow. I was the youngest of 2 daughters. Victoria was 3 years older, and from the very start, she was the golden child. Beautiful, poised, effortlessly charming. She aced every class, won an Ivy League scholarship, and landed a 6-figure job straight out of college. My mom proudly paraded her achievements to neighbors and relatives like trophies. Me, I was the creative one, the dreamer, the girl who preferred sketchbooks over spreadsheets. I chose a respected state school with a strong design program instead of a prestigious Ivy. After graduation, I took a modest-paying job at a small creative agency. Work I loved, even if the paycheck wasn't impressive. But to my mother, it all looked like failure. By 22, she had already decided I'd fallen short. Every choice I made was measured against Victoria's flawless example. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" That was the soundtrack of my life. When Victoria bought her first home at 26, a perfect suburban house with her lawyer fiancé, Brandon, my mom practically floated with pride. I was 23, still sharing a cramped apartment with 2 roommates, proud of my independence, proud of building something on my own. But in my mom's eyes, that pride was worthless. The comparisons never stopped. At family gatherings, Victoria's successes were recited like an award list, while my career was brushed off as little art projects. Each word chipped away at me. Every smirk from Victoria, every sigh from my mom, reminded me I was just the shadow in a house with 1 star. By 25, I'd trained myself to brace before every family dinner. It wasn't the food I tasted. It was the familiar bitterness of disappointment. And then came Thanksgiving, the day their words cut deep enough to change me forever. Part 3, From Freelance Nights to Full-Time Freedom. That Thanksgiving dinner should have broken me. Instead, it did something else. When my mom told me I'd never own a house and Victoria looked at me like she'd already won life, something inside me shifted. Not into pieces, but into focus. I didn't argue that night. I didn't beg for recognition. I smiled, finished my potatoes, and quietly decided I was done living for their approval. The drive home was long and silent. Tears blurred the highway lights, not tears of defeat, but of release. Years of chasing validation drained out of me. That night, I opened my laptop and clicked on a folder I'd been too scared to treat seriously. My freelance work. Logos I'd designed. Websites I'd built. Brand packages that had quietly fueled my passion for 2 years. Late nights and weekends spent creating under the label of extra cash. For the first time, I asked myself, what if this wasn't just extra? What if this was the beginning of something real? Within a week, I filed the paperwork for an LLC. I bought a domain. I built a sleek website to showcase my best work. I reached out to old contacts, joined online communities, and marketed myself as a branding specialist for startups. The response stunned me. I'd been undercharging for years. Even after raising my rates, clients kept coming and respected me more. Within 3 months, my freelance income outpaced my agency salary. By month 6, I walked into my boss's office with my resignation letter. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was freedom. But it wasn't easy. There were nights my eyes burned from staring at a screen. coffee keeping me awake as I sketched logo drafts at 2 a.m. under the glow of my desk lamp. Mornings when anxiety whispered that my mom was right, that maybe I was chasing a dream too fragile to survive. And yet, every finished project told me otherwise. Every satisfied client email became proof that I was capable, that my path had worth. I didn't tell my family. Why would I? They'd already written me off. Instead, I focused on building. I hired a virtual assistant, then a junior designer. My business began scaling faster than I could have imagined. But the best part wasn't the money. It was waking up excited, choosing my clients, setting my own boundaries, steering my own ship. For the first time in my life, I didn't care if my family ever noticed, because deep down, I knew one day they would. And when that day came, I wouldn't be the one knocking on their door. Part 4, the driveway showdown. It would be them, standing right at my doorstep. Nearly a year had passed since that Thanksgiving dinner. In that time, my business had flourished, my savings had grown, and most importantly, I had grown. I had something to show for it. A Victorian home in Millbrook Heights, the neighborhood my mother had always dreamed of, yet never reached. Not a word had escaped my lips about it. This house was mine, my sanctuary, my proof. Then one afternoon my phone buzzed. It was my mother. "Henrietta," she said, her voice sharp. "Victoria told me you've been claiming you bought a house. Is this some kind of joke?" I froze. How did she know? But my reply was calm. "It's not a joke. I did." Silence stretched across the line. Finally, she scoffed. "That's impossible. Those houses cost a fortune. There's no way you could afford one. Are you lying to make yourself feel better?" Her words stung, but I didn't waver. "I'm not lying. I bought a home in Millbrook Heights." Another pause. Then her demand. "Prove it. Give me the address." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to keep my sanctuary private. But a stronger part, the part that was done hiding, spoke up. I gave her the address. "We'll be there in an hour," she snapped before hanging up. My heart raced. I wandered through my house, tracing my fingers along the carved banister, the stained glass, the kitchen I had renovated with my own money. This was mine. Why was I still preparing to prove myself to them? The doorbell never rang. Instead, my phone lit up with a flood of messages from my mother and Victoria. "Henriette, we're outside. Open the door. This is ridiculous. Let us in. Stop being childish. We drove all the way here." I stepped onto the porch, mug of tea in hand, and saw them standing at the edge of my driveway. 2 women who had spent years tearing me down, now staring at the house I had built without them. My phone buzzed again, another demand, another insult masquerading as concern. I typed 4 words into the family group chat. 4 words that carried the weight of my entire journey. "Get off my property." The buzzing stopped. The calls ended. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the powerless daughter. I had boundaries, and the shock on their faces, even from across the street, told me they finally understood. I didn't need their validation. Part 5, emails, apologies, and new terms. The next morning, my father called. His voice was heavy with disappointment. "Your mother is upset," he said. "She says you were disrespectful. Why didn't you just let us in?" I closed my eyes. Years of silence from him echoed louder than his words. "Dad," I said slowly, "did you ever tell Mom to stop comparing me to Victoria? Did you ever defend me when she laughed at my career? Or when she told me I'd never be enough?" The line was silent. That silence said it all. "You wanted peace in the family," I whispered. "So you let them destroy me to keep it. And now you want me to fold again, to maintain a peace that only ever protected them." He sighed, a sound of a man cornered. "I love you," he said weakly, "but I don't know how to fix this." "It's not my job to fix it," I replied. "It's theirs to admit what they did. Until then, there's nothing to fix." I hung up before he could respond. For days, the house was quiet. No calls, no demands. I worked in peace, designing brands for clients who truly valued me. Then an email appeared from Victoria. 3 words I never expected opened the message. "I'm sorry, Henrietta." I read carefully, suspicious, but her tone was different this time. She admitted the truth, that she had mocked me to feel superior, that she envied my courage to follow my passion. Her marriage was crumbling, her career unfulfilling. She confessed jealousy, pure and unfiltered. No excuses. For once, my sister's smirk was gone. I didn't respond immediately. I let her words sit, testing their weight. A week later, another message arrived, this time from my mother. "Henriette," she wrote, "I see now my methods were harsh. I thought I was pushing you to succeed, but I hurt you instead. I'm proud of you, even if I struggled to show it." I stared at the screen, glowing in the dark. Years I had longed for these words, and now they felt almost foreign, like hearing a language I'd once forgotten. I carefully typed my replies. To Victoria, "Thank you. I'm not ready for closeness, but maybe we can start small. Coffee. Just us." To my mother, "I need more than words. I need respect, not comparisons. If you can give me that, we can rebuild slowly." For the first time, I wasn't seeking approval. I was setting the terms. The power shift was undeniable. I wasn't the disappointment anymore. I was the one choosing who got access to me. Part 6. Owning my worth. 6 months passed since that driveway showdown. The house that once felt like defiance now felt like home. Victoria and I began rebuilding cautiously. Coffee dates, quiet conversations, moments where we weren't rivals, but sisters rediscovering one another. My mother moved slower, through therapy, apologies, and awkward attempts at kindness. Some days I believed her effort. Other days I doubted it. Either way, I remained in control. Their approval wasn't the prize. My peace was. My boundaries were. The life I had built was. On my 27th birthday, I sat in the turret office I had designed for myself. Sunlight filtered through stained glass, painting the room in shades of gold and rose. I thought of the girl I used to be, sitting at family dinners, swallowing criticism with mashed potatoes, waiting for someone to tell her she was enough. That girl was gone. In her place stood a woman who didn't need applause to feel accomplished, a woman who learned that sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right. I built this house. I built this business. I built this life. And most importantly, I built myself. If you've ever been told you'd never measure up, dismissed, compared, or underestimated, hear me clearly. You are not defined by their vision of you. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to create a future. They never believed you could. But owning your worth is the most unshakable property you'll ever have.